The second supergroups of protists are chromalveolates. So under chromalveolates, we have groups of alveolates and also straminophores. And both of these groups under supergroup of chromalveolates is happen due to the secondary endosymbiosis of red algae. So for member of alveolates, they have a membrane-bound sex, which is known as the alveoli, just right under the plasma membrane. However, the functions of the alveoli is still unknown, and alveolates includes dinoflagellates, epicomplexans, and also the ciliate. So what is the difference between these three types of alveolates? So for ciliates, or also known as ciliophora, they move using cilia. Meanwhile, epicomplexan, most of them are parasite, and for dinoflagella, they move using the flagellates. So all of the alveolates typically have a flexible pellicle at the membrane cells, in which this pellicles is help in stabilizing the cell surface, and it also used to regulate the cell water and also the iron content. This is the structure of the alveolates. And then let's look at the ciliates, one of the groups under alveolates. So ciliate move using cilia and also feed using cilia. They have a large macronuclei and also small micronuclei. Small micronuclei function during conjugation, which is a conjugation is a sexual process that occurs by a binary fission to produce a genetic variation. Meanwhile, large macronuclei function is for feeding and also for the waste removal. One of the common example of ciliate group is Paramecium species, in which in Paramecium species, the functions of the cilia is also for beating food into the oral cavity, and it extends through the pore in the pellicle to facilitate movement. So this is the structure of the cilia, and as you can see here, there is a lot of the pellicles just below the membranes for trapping the prey. And another one more structure that you need to know in a paramecium is that a gullet, in which this one, a gullet is the entrance of food particles into the cell body, and the food later will be enclosed in the food vacuole as it will be digested. Meanwhile, for the water will diffuse into the cell and it enter the contractile vacuole. This is the contractile vacuole to force the water through the pore to the outside. This is the structure. The oral groove, also known as the gullet, and this is the contractile vacuole used to store and remove the water inside the paramecium. Ciliates reproduce using two ways, which is sexually and asexually. For asexually, they produce through binary fission. Meanwhile, for sexual reproductions, they reproduce through a conjugation. So, this is the structure. How does it look like? As you can see here, this is a macronucleus. The function is for feeding and waste removal. Meanwhile, the small 4 micronuclei here is important for the conjugation process. This is the conjugations and reproductions process. Next, we're gonna look at the ciliate lifestyle. So most of the ciliates are free-living motile and other are permanently attached themselves to the substrate. Meanwhile, 30% of it are symbiont with other organisms or some other are parasites. And the next group of alveolate is epicomplexan. Remember, most of the epicomplexan are parasites and they are characterized by the presence of unique organelle called apical complex. This is the structure of the apical complex. And the most famous example of the epicomplexan, there are four of it. First, you will learn about cryptosporidium. Next, you will learn about pneumocystis carini. The second one is Toxoplasma gondii, and the last one is Plasmodium. For cryptosporidium, it is a parasite that can cause the waterborne disease called as a cryptosporidiosis, in which this parasite will invade the small intestine or the respiratory system, causing the stomach cramp, watery diarrhea, and also a slight fever. Next, this is the life cycle, the cycle of the infections of cryptosporidiosis. Next, we're gonna look at pneumocystis carini. So, pneumocystis carini can cause pneumonia, in which this pneumonia will lead to the failure of the respiratory system. Another example of epicomplexan parasite is Toxoplasma. Toxoplasma gondii can cause the disease called as a toxoplasmosis, in which this disease can cause a pregnant woman to miscarriage or birth defect to the embryo. Last but not least, this is how the Toxoplasma gondii infected the pregnant woman through the cat litter, and this is the cycle. Last but not least is epicomplexan parasite, which is a Plasmodium species. Plasmodium species can cause a disease called a malaria, in which this Plasmodium, there are three forms in the life cycle. The first one is sporozoid, the second one is merozoid, and the third one is gametocyte. This is the life cycle of the Plasmodium that can cause a malaria disease. And this is how it looks like. And the gametocyte failed to develop the spirocyte in human blood because human blood has a high temperature and human blood has low dissolved oxygen. So gametocyte undergo sexual reproduction in the mosquito body. Next, another group of alveolates is dinoflagellates. So dinoflagellates are the marine planktons, sometimes called as a freshwater plankton. They may be photosynthetic or sometimes mixotropics. Most of the flagellates are unicellular, some of them are colonial, and they have a characteristic shape that in many species that reinforced by the internal plates of the cellulose. So this is the structure of the dinoflagellates. Usually they possess a chlorophyll A and also chlorophyll C and also carotenoids like fucosectin. Sectin. Okay, so examples of the functions of the dinoflagellates is in bioluminescence, in which it used to attract fishes to the predator of them, and also it can cause the algae bloom, in which algae bloom is a disastrous and explosive population growth of dinoflagellates, and this is mainly caused by the human activities. And the high volume of the dinoflagellates will cause the water to become golden or red in color, and it is called as a red tide. this is another feature of how does the algae bloom looks like, caused by the dinoflagellates. And the most famous type example of dinoflagellate is Pfisteria. So Pfisteria is a parasite that can cause the toxic bloom, in which this Pfisteria pesticida, or known as the cell from hell, it can cause a great deal of losses in the fishes industry, in which the toxic flagellate stage will attach to the fish and suck out their juices. Therefore, the ammoebite stage feeds on the dead fish. So this is the example of the structure. And then another type of chromalveolates is straminophales. Straminophales have hairy flagellum paired with a smooth flagellum. Okay, this is the smooth one and this is the hairy flagellum. So straminophales divided into 4 groups. We have water moths, diatoms, golden algae, and brown algae. For the first one, we're gonna look at the water moths, or known as oomycetes. So oomycetes are non-photosynthetic heterotrophs, and then they also have a similarity with fungi in which they contain multi-nucleate hyphae. And then some of them also contain a cyanocytic hyphae. So what this cyanocytic hyphae, wait, as you can see here, look at the figure over here. This cyanocytic hyphae quite similar to the fungi, but the difference between the fungi is that in straminophales, in the water moths, the cell wall are made of cellulose. Meanwhile, for a normal fungi, the cell wall is made up from a chitin. Okay, here is it, the comparison. And this is the example of water moths, which is saprolegnia, in which saprolegnia attack damaged tissue in aquarium fish. Another one example of water moth is downy mildew. It caused by the Plasmopara viticola, and also it can cause by the Phytophthora infestan, in which the Phytophthora infestan cause Irish potato blight. Next, this is the infestan. This is the oomocyte reproduction through sexual and asexual reproductions. This one, as you can see over here. Next, we're gonna look at the photosynthetic straminophales, in which they synthesize all fats and also other storage products. And another example of straminophales are diatoms. Diatom is usually a unicellular algae, and they usually also reproduce through asexual and sexual reproductions. And it possesses a silica. It possesses a silica shell, as you can see over here. And they also have a finely crushed shell accumulate at the bottom of the legs and also in the sea. This is how the diatom reproduce, bisexually and also asexually. Asexually is via mitosis. Sexually, they will form a amoeboid and flagellate sperm. And then, next, this is the example of diatoms. We have chrysophytes, in which it possesses yellow and brown keratinite and possess chlorophyll A, C1, and C2. and it consists of golden algae, yellow-green algae, and coccolithophores. So remember, coccolithophores is a parasite that toxic to the fish. Okay, here is the structure. And then we also have yellow-green algae under the group of the golden algae. And this is coccolithophores, the one that I said toxic to the fish. Last but not least, under the group of straminophores is the brown algae. So brown algae is the largest and the most complex algae. They are multicellular, none of them are unicellular, and this species include many species commonly called as a seaweed, and most of them are complex multicellular anatomy of all algae. And they also possess chlorophyll A, C1, and also C2. Example of it is a giant kelp. This is the structure of the giant kelps. Giant kelp is the largest algae under the group of the brown algae. This is how does it look like. This is some of the functions of the brown algae, which use as the food or fertilizer, and some of them use the extract can use to thickening agent in ice cream, pudding, jelly bean, salad dressing, toothpaste, shaving creams, and hair lotions. Okay, this is how the brown algae reproduce. Okay, so in overall, the two supergroup that you have learned just now is escarvates and also chromalveolates, in which escarvate divided into three, which is diplomonates, parabasalites, and also euglenozoan. And the second supergroup is chromalveolates, which is divided into another two big group, which is alveolate and also straminophores. So in this chapter, what you have to know, the importance that you have to remember is what is the specific characteristic of each group. Is it parasite or not? And what is the disease that caused by the parasite? What is the symptom? And the way of the protists reproduce. Okay, that's all. Thank you, class.